Today, let's talk about gift funds, personal gifts. How do we do gift funds? What can be allowed? Gift funds, a borrower of a mortgage loan secured by a principal residence or a second home may use funds received as a personal gift from an acceptable donor. We're going to talk about what an acceptable donor is. Gift funds may fund all or part of the down payment, closing costs, or financial reserves subject to the minimum borrower contribution requirements below. Gifts are not allowed on investment property. No gifts on investment property. If you've got a gift giver that wants to help you with an investment property, they're going to have to be your partner. They're going to have to be on the mortgage with you. A gift of equity may not be used for financial reserves. Gift of equity is typically not, it's not the goal to use it for a financial reserve anyway. Oh, I get what they're saying. In other words, yeah, that doesn't count as your financial reserves. In other words, if somebody wants to gift you, that they own a house that they consider is, that they appraise for $200,000, they want to sell it to you for $150,000 with giving you a $50,000 gift of equity. That $50,000 gift of equity cannot count as your reserves. You can't put that on your sheet as a reserve. Acceptable donors. Gifts. A gift can be provided by a relative defined as the borrower's spouse, child, or other dependent, or any other individual who is related to the borrower by blood, marriage, adoption, or legal guardianship. Okay, so blood, marriage, adoption, or legal guardianship. A non-relative that shares a familial relationship with the borrower defined as a domestic partner or relative of the domestic partner. Now, it's good that it spells that out specifically. So if you have an underwriter tell you that your domestic partner's mother isn't eligible to give you a gift, right here you can go to this, spell it out. There'll be a link in the notes. Individual engaged to marry the borrower, former relative, or godparent. Now that one, I'm not sure how we're going to define godparent. I don't know if there's a technical definition for godparent, but that's our question. If you have the answer, I'd love to see you comment let me know in the comments. The donor may not be or have any affiliation with the builder, developer, real estate agent, or other interested party to the transaction. Okay, so there's the trick there. The real estate agent can't say, oh, you're only $1,500 short, I'll have my buddy give it to you. That doesn't work. The donor of a gift of equity is not considered an interested party to the transaction. Okay, let's talk about what those minimum borrower contribution requirements are. In other words, how much do you as the borrower have to bring to the table of your own personal money? If the gift giver is giving you more than 20% for the down payment and you're going to use 20% down, in other words, you're going to have a loan to value of less than 80%, then on a 1 to 4 person principal residence or a second home, you don't have to bring any money to the transaction from your own funds. However, if it's less than 80%, you're going to have to bring your own funds if you want to buy a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex, or a second home. If you're bringing less than 80% to the table from the gift and you want to buy a duplex, a triplex, or a quadruplex, or a second home, you got to bring 5% of your own cash. In other words, if it's a $100,000 house, you got to bring $5,000 of your own money. $5,000 of your own money in this scenario. Now, if it's a 1-unit, single-family home, personal residence, you don't have to bring a gift. You don't have to bring any money of your own funds. It can be 100% gift. And, there's scenarios where this 100% gift can go all the way down to 3%. So here we are. There's the minimum contributions. Let's talk about documentation requirements. The gifts must be evidenced by a letter signed by the donor. It's called a gift letter. The gift letter must specify the dollar amount of the gift, specify the date the funds were transmitted, include the donor's statement that no repayment is expected, and indicate the donor's name, address, telephone number, and relationship to the borrower. When a gift is from an acceptable donor is being pooled with the borrower's funds to make up the required minimum cash down payment, the following items must also be included. a certification from the donor stating that he or she has lived with the borrower for the past 12 months and will continue to do so in the new residence. Oh, okay. In other words, when you've got this is a joint checking, joint savings account, and it's showing, you're saying that in that time, this is somebody that's living with you. The second thing, documents that demonstrate a history of borrower and donor shared residency. The donor's address must be the same as the borrower's address. Examples include, but are not limited to, a copy of driver's license, a bill, or a bank statement. So you get your power bill, your bank statement, driver's license, and this is specifically for this scenario here where it talks about okay, I found where that came from. Here it is. It's this, the borrower must make a 5% minimum borrower contribution from his or her own funds, but there's a caveat to that. If the borrower receives a gift from an acceptable donor who has lived with the borrower for the last 12 months, the gift is considered the borrower's own funds. In other words, in this scenario, here you are, you need a 5%, and the borrower's lived with you, and you're going to buy a duplex, quadruplex, triplex, and you want to use funds from your roommate who may not have one of these other relationships to you, but it's a roommate, and you're going to buy together a 2 to 4 unit residence. You're going to live in it. Maybe you're going to live in 2 of the units, or you're going to live in 1 of the units together and rent the other 2 or 3 or 1, whatever. In this scenario, if you've commingled your funds, maybe one borrower doesn't have the credit, and so you got one person on the loan and you're going to use commingled funds from a shared account possibly, then here's where we're going to say you got to say that you've lived with the borrower for the past 12 months and you continue to do so, and you can use a copy of the driver's license, a bill, or bank statement to show that you have the same address. Verifying the donor's availability of funds and transfer of gifts. The lender must verify that sufficient funds to cover the gift are either in the donor's account, such as a checking, savings, or investment account owned by the donor, or have been transferred to the borrower's account. Acceptable documentation includes the following: a copy of the donor's check and the borrower's deposit slip, a copy of the donor's withdrawal slip and a borrower's deposit slip, evidence of the electronic transfer of funds from the donor's account to the borrower's account, or to the closing agent, a copy of the donor's check to the closing agent, or a settlement statement showing receipt of the donor's check. I've had scenarios where an underwriter has asked me for the donor's bank statement showing where the money was withdrawn. And it looks like I can use this as evidence to say, listen, we're not going to get into this the donor's personal information. Instead, we're just going to give a donor's check and a borrower's deposit slip. Any of these things appear to work. I'm interested in why I've had to have donors' bank statements in the past. This seems to say maybe it's not, although there's some related announcements. If anybody wants to answer that in the comments of the chat, I'd love for you to do so. And again, I'm Josh. I'm with Churchill Mortgage. Not really the purpose of me making these videos. It's not to recruit, but why not? Churchill's a great company. We're an ESOP. In other words, we own part of the company. I'm in North Carolina. Would love to have more North Carolina loan originators. If you're a self-starter and maybe you've built a little book of business, you're working for a company, it's not the best. Churchill is a company that I'm very happy to do business with. It's working really well for me. I would love to work with you. If you'd like to reach out, call me anytime or check me out on talktojosh.net.